Hello, everyone. I'm Norman Edward Barnum IV, Interim President and CEO of the New Orleans Business Alliance. We are proud to be a partner with the I Am New Orleans series that fosters discussions about racial equality. NOLA's tagline is culture, equity, prosperity. In everything that we do as an organization, we try to embody those three words and ensure that the end result of our team's work positively impacts the community members that need it most. We as business leaders have to make it our mission to start working with our young talent, starting as early as kindergarten to instill them the drive, the passion, and the awareness of local career paths so that they are ready and able to help create and build businesses right here in New Orleans, in their hometown. We must go beyond the old model of connecting local talent to minimum wage jobs, as this is aligned with yesterday's needs, not the needs of the 21st century. The New Orleans business community can work on strengthening relationships with local university students and help prepare them for the reality of where our city is moving. The city's natural growth is by way of entrepreneurship and the creation, sustainment, and growth of small businesses. Through the conversations and initiatives of programs like I Am New Orleans, NOLA has seen tangible steps aimed at cultivating young adults. One external partner who celebrates in this space is Dr. Calvin Mackey and his STEM Global Action Organization, which seeks to inform, engage, and inspire people of all ages to pursue work and entrepreneurial dreams in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math. An example of NOLA's work in this area is a successful securing of a federal grant that was awarded to U.S. Economic Development Administration to construct wet labs at the beach at UNO. This development will provide a local place for our local homegrown biotech entrepreneurs spinning out of our local universities to grow and expand their companies without leaving the city or state. This example shows NOLA addressing historic pain points of New Orleans in real time. There is so much more that New Orleans has to offer, and we as a community need to be better at helping our young people realize that New Orleans, their home, is where they can live, play, and work while sufficiently providing for themselves and their families for generations to come. Thank you. I look forward to this enlightening conversation today with our entrepreneurs. Asali.
Thank you so much, Norman, and hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for another I Am New Orleans conversation series. I am Asali DeVan Ecclesiastes. I'm the Chief Equity Officer for Efforts of Grace in the Ashé Cultural Arts Center. I am a mother, daughter, educator, organizer, author, event producer, performance artist, community servant, and most of all, child of New Orleans. And so excited to be talking about entrepreneurship, the new American dream. Tonight, we're going to be talking with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and workforce development officers about how we can use entrepreneurship as a pathway to making individuals, families, and communities economically secure and equitable. For those unfamiliar with the I Am New Orleans series, it is being held and led by community to inspire discussion and action around critical issues of racial equity that impact our children. This conversation was curated in partnership with our great folks at the New Orleans Business Alliance. So thank you so much for that partnership. Before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, this conversation offers live Spanish and Vietnamese translations and closed captioning, which you can access at the bottom of your screen. Second, this is a community conversation, so please join in. I already see y'all giving us shout outs, telling us hello, good evening. Tremaine is already in the house. So, chat us up, talk to us, put your comments in the box so we can ask the panelists questions and keep this the kind of real conversations that we love. Third, the conversation is being recorded so that we can share this really necessary, kinds of fertilization of this ecosystem with our community at large and share it with additional resources that you can access afterwards. And most importantly, remember to join the conversation socially using that I Am New Orleans hashtag. Get us going in the social media realm. So our goal is to stimulate conversation and action, most importantly, around critical issues of racial equity. So please get onto your social media account, share your story. Now, let's get to the nitty gritty and talk to our amazing collection of panelists. We have with us today Greg Tillery, owner of WeDat Chicken and Shrimp. We have Cherie. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say something, Greg? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying hello to everybody.
Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody. Thank you, Greg. We have Ms. Cherie Lacour-Duckworth, the Vice President of Workforce Development for the Urban League of Louisiana. We have Lindsey Navarro, Executive Director of Centro. And Jared the Dreamer, self-published children's book author and entrepreneur. So let us get this conversation going, because these are some amazing brains with some amazing experiences to share. So we're going to start off talking about economic disparities in Black and Brown populations. This is something that we know so well in our life experiences, but we also have really disheartening data to back that up. And according to the 2018 New Orleans Prosperity Index, the tricentennial edition put out by our great partners at the Data Center, 40% of small businesses in New Orleans are owned by entrepreneurs of color, yet they receive only 2% of the total annual receipts. This means that of the total sales, shipments, revenue, business done in our city, that only 2% goes to businesses of color. And we've been stuck at that number for decades, even though we have more entrepreneurs, even though there seems to be, more capacity inside of the ecosystem. What's holding them back? There are the resources out there. We have Urban League here, we have NOLA BA, who have been helping connect businesses to opportunities. But let's discuss, what some of these challenges are in the ecosystem, and, what are the gaps in service? And would anyone like to get us started with that conversation? Greg, what's your experience as a small business owner who needs access to these kinds of services?
So first of all, like I said, good evening to everybody. My journey about 10 years ago, the way I funded my business was I transitioned from corporate America, doing that, and then invested everything that I had earned from working in the corporate America space into my food truck. And then from everything that I made on the food truck, I saved and then invested that into my brick and mortar, the first brick and mortar location that we have that is currently on Canal Street, which is the flagship store, only Black-owned business for a very, very long time that was on Canal Street. And then from what we did at Canal Street, we started to expand. So back when I was getting started, I wasn't privileged to, I just didn't know that, organizations like the NOLA BA, the Urban League, all that kind of, those amazing organizations, I just didn't know that they existed. So now, that I know that it exists, then, you build relationships. But for me, my journey was more along the lines of working, grinding, saving, figuring it out, making mistakes, having to use my own funds, having to use my own capital. But then to be completely honest with you, now, just being 100 when it comes down to reporting everything that goes through, our POS systems, because at the end of the day, when you go to any bank, small or large, they want to see your financials. So, even if you take losses, even if, you don't have such a successful year, you still want to make sure that you're reporting all of that stuff so that when you do get approached and you do, build those relationships in your business that you're starting, you do start to gain that traction and you have dreams of scaling scaling and expanding, you have the financials and the documentation to show, what it is and the things that they want to see. So, I really would stress to people to really lean on the NOLA BA and really tap into organizations like, Urban League and other organizations out there right now. I mean, we have Google, in our phones at our fingertips. So you can really kind of Google a lot of stuff, information that you might not know. So.
Mm-hmm. And this is very true, but still there seems to be, having worked on the ground with small businesses and knowing, just the load, every day, right? And that there are these organizations. And even when you bring the stuff to small businesses, sometimes they don't always have the capacity to take advantage of the opportunity that you're bringing to them. Lindsey, I'd like to know, like, how do you overcome that challenge as someone, who's, serving organizations on the ground in that way?
Thank you for the question. Can you all hear me? I'm just gonna speak a little slowly.
Yes.
My internet connection is challenging today. So for us, it's important as a technical assistance provider. So let me rewind backwards. So my name is Lindsey Navarro, and I'm founder and executive director of Centro. I launched the organization 4 years ago after having spent 7 years in microfinance, making small business loans with a CDFI called the fund locally in New Orleans. I had opened all of the Latino markets in the Delta states with the organization, and built my capacity in helping customers understand how to prepare for financing. And I realized that I didn't want to make loans anymore. I wanted to teach people how they could prepare themselves to access the capital so that when they would need it most, they'd be eligible for it. And that's essentially how the organization was, or the reason behind the organization being founded. Today, we specialize in financial literacy and entrepreneurial training, and we try to work as a one-stop shop for Spanish speakers who, due to limited language access, find it really challenging to open businesses. And I like to give the example of, imagine moving to France or China and wanting to open a business and having to navigate the legal system of registering your business in France or China when you don't speak the language. Mm-hmm. And that's what these people are doing here. And most entrepreneurs don't go into business because most entrepreneurs go into business because they're really good at what they do, right? Something that they're passionate about, and they can sell it, and that's what they put on the table for themselves, for their families. And the reality is, even if you went to business school, they still don't teach you the basics of how to register your business, get your proper licensing, and all of those things, which is why it's so important for us to be the ones to provide that. And but I think the most important thing to do in the work that we do is to meet customers where they are, and to being an entrepreneur can be slow, or of a, I run things on my own experience that they can have, and to ensure that when they do hit the road bumps of having to navigate their licenses, their permits, how to pay sales tax, how to manage accounting, how to set up a system, the reasons for having QuickBooks, and hold them, but guide them through so they can avoid the worst mistakes. And I think that the sooner we can provide that coaching and mentoring to customers or to them on the front end, the more impactful I think the work can be, and the more successful an entrepreneur will be in the long term.
Agreed. Thank you for that. And so with that being said, Jared, how could someone—
and I hope you all caught all of that.
Oh, yes, we did. Sorry, it was a little bit bumpy, and I'm hoping you're catching us as well. But we thank you for sticking in with us, because the information you have to offer is so important to the conversation. And so, Jared, how could an organization that's looking to support entrepreneurs such as yourself meet you where you are?
That is a great question. because that's the biggest. I went to a class at one point called Measuring Impact 101. And it always talked about meeting people where they are and including people from the very beginning. And for me, coming from where I come from, it means having an understanding that we all start somewhere. And I think someone just also mentioned about how entrepreneurs don't really get started knowing everything to do, because the hardest thing is to actually get started. And the majority of people actually never get started. And I think that they say that the most expensive place in the world or valuable place in the world is the graveyard, because of how many dreams die there. And so what I liken that to in my journey is a cliff. And first you have to be connected to a higher power or a higher feeling. And for me, of course, that's God. But the scariest thing in the world to do is to jump off of that cliff, because you're afraid that you're going to fall and you're going to hurt yourself or you're not going to make it. But if you look at that cliff almost like a mother bird, and where she puts her nest at a certain height and she pushes those birds out, or they jump out and they do fall. Some do fall and hit the ground. But the idea is that it's placed in a certain position, and you're placed in a certain position that even if you do fall, that higher power will come back down and pick you back up. And I know that we're talking about real stuff here, and it's very real to me, because I think that when you talk about meeting people where they are, that's both on the inside and the outside. Why are you doing this business? What's driving you to do this business? Are you okay mentally? Are you prepared mentally to embark on this journey? How can we get you prepared even holistically to embark on this journey? Because I believe in you. I believe you're successful. And even as I think about it now, one of my stories, and just briefly, is my connection to Greg over there with WeDat. And I talk about it often because it just means a lot to me. And I went to Greg before I ever had a book. I actually only had printed copies of a paper and a folder. And there's a picture that I have on my Instagram of that folder with the pictures in it. And I remember I was just running it to him. And I'm sorry to use that slang, but I was talking to him, and I was I was just so passionate. He was just looking. And then everybody else around him was looking like, we have a lot to do right now. And he was just looking. And then I remember his arms folded. And he just kind of leaned to the side and he just looked at me. I said, I'm telling you, man, this book can work. And he said, look, honestly, I think the book is good. Like, the book will be fine, but I believe in you. Like, do you hear yourself talking right now? Do you hear what you're saying? Do you hear the passion behind what you're talking about right now? I want to support you. And of course, that means I'm going to support the book, but how can I support you? And when you talk about meeting people where they are, and of course, I don't want to get emotional thinking back, but there's been a lot going on today that makes me realize and think back. Man, that man was really busy. So to take a moment and to meet me where I am literally is exactly what we have to do. So.
Wonderful. I appreciate that very much. And we're going to take a second. It's a poll time. Yeah, that's really a wonderful Jared, I don't know if you see the chat, but everyone is remarking their inspiration, at your story and the telling, and which is why I'm so excited to be here as a person who works inside a culture, to kind of highlight and emphasize the role of culture inside of business, especially here, in New Orleans. Yeah, we have some folks from all over joining us. It's wonderful. Botswana. Okay, so the poll, access to resources. Why do you think it's difficult for small businesses to access resources? No time, they're trying to stay above water. There is no playbook in New Orleans on opening and maintaining a small business. Entrepreneurs of color are locked out of traditional networks and support systems that build their capacity in sales. Entrepreneurs of color don't have access to capital that enables them to compete for business and scale up. Or entrepreneurs of color aren't aware of the resources and how to access them. All right, so y'all, what are y'all's thoughts? This is for you, crowd. We can't vote. So, Jerry, you gave us a lot to think about. Oh, we get the results that fast. I forgot this technical world. All right, so this equal split between entrepreneurs of color being locked out of the traditional networks and entrepreneurs of color not being aware of the resources. And I would say, that is very telling. The next is entrepreneurs of color don't have access to capital. And then 15% said there's no playbook. I think all of those are true. And it's very interesting to me that nobody put that there's no time, that entrepreneurs are too busy trying to stay above water. And I think that acknowledges that, how hard entrepreneurs are working, even with, trying to execute their business, that they're still working on strategy. They're still working on, expanding their capacity and access to networks and resources. And so that is what makes it so exciting to want to be part of a solution, right? When you have a group of people like entrepreneurs who have that passion and who have the commitment to meet them where they are, and the infrastructure, right, is part of what we need to be there for folks. We think of this as this gateway into wealth creation and the opportunity with freedom of expression. So how can we, as the people who create the support systems, do more? According to an article published by CNBC in 2021, there are 30.2 million small businesses in the US, but only a fraction of them survive. 20% of small businesses fail by the first year, 30 by the second, 50 by the fifth, and by the 10th year, 70% of small businesses have shut off their lights. And that is horrendous, especially because for minorities, that number is even more daunting. 8 out of 10 Black-owned businesses fail within the first 18 months. And we all know that COVID-19 has exacerbated those issues, as well as, so many others. We didn't get our paycheck protection programs, at the same rates and in the same times as white-owned businesses. So, Cherie, I would love to hear from you about, the ecosystem that we, that we put around small businesses. How can we create policy pathways and, the workforce supports and, those kinds of things that make it easier for our small businesses?
So I'll say it like this. Great evening, everyone. Entrepreneurship and employment are two separate pathways to economic opportunity, so much so that industry is often given the responsibility of creating jobs, while entrepreneurship is often perceived as an individual opportunity within a broader business ecosystem. And so I think it's so crucial and important for individuals who are not an entrepreneur to make sure that they have the necessary skills to compete for jobs that entrepreneurs have. Another reason why some businesses may possibly close is because they don't have access to the right talent that it takes to keep them afloat. Because if your talent is there, that means you possibly are earning the monies that you need to keep your business going. And then you have an opportunity to reach back to the Urban League or NOLA BA to say, hey, listen, I need some additional resources. I need some additional education so I can know how to further my business. But it takes more than one step. It's not just having the resource. You got to have the resource. You need to have the talent to help your businesses move forward. So I would employ anyone or empower anyone that's in the audience that's listening. Being an entrepreneur is like having a job. It might even be harder. You have to work 24 hours a day. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is still a hustle. You have to hustle when you work for a nonprofit. You have to hustle for the grants. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're really like a freelancer, right? And so you're constantly hustling to your next big gig. So, I would say that reach out to the Urban League, reach out to NOLA BA when you need those resources. And there are a bunch of other wonderful organizations out there. I don't want to just say Urban League or NOLA BA. There are a number of organizations out there that our people, brown and Black people can reach out to find the assistance that they need.
Greg, let me ask you well, first of all, Cherie, thank you so much for saying that. I know what organizations like yours, first of all, what you bring to the ecosystem, and being that hope and being that that line, right, for so many businesses when there is nothing else helping them chart those courses. And I'm just wondering what it makes a business person to feel when they hear statistics like that, right? That even with the hard work that the network of organizations are doing, like Urban League, like El Centro, like GoBe, and NOLA BA and the other folks that we have, yes, the Blue House, Propeller, thank you, Launch NOLA. We have great people who are dedicated to that, but you still see those numbers, you hear those numbers, and you feel those impacts. What does that do to and for you? Yes, Fund 17. Yes, shout out everybody. Thank you for that in the chat. Well, so Greg, how does that make you feel as an entrepreneur?
Well, I mean, to be completely honest with you, I tell people all the time, it takes, sometimes 10 years to get that 1 year that'll change your life. I was working corporate America, and it's going on 10 years. I've been doing this, from the food truck to the restaurants, to, the product line now that we have in different grocery stores. It was very scary, especially COVID. I think that the numbers nationwide, it was like 35,000 or something like that, small businesses, restaurants that closed down. So, it's very special. It's very, scary. But like I said, what you put into anything is what you're going to get out. And me just being from New Orleans, and being from where I'm from, inside of New Orleans, is just always just that resiliency that comes with it. So for me, I didn't know about, like I said, NOLA BA. I didn't know about Urban League. I didn't know about Propeller, which is an amazing organization that I'm actually going to be teaming up with as well. So shout out to them. But I didn't know about all of this stuff when I was coming up. I was just figuring it out. I was going through the process. I was learning it. I was, putting in a sweat equity, to, try to navigate and maneuver through whatever it is that I was dealing with. When I was on a food truck, nobody told me, that my food truck was going to catch on fire. Nobody told me that my clutch was going to go out on my food truck. Nobody told me that my head gasket on my food truck was going to go out on me. I thought that I was going to get a food truck and I was going to immediately start making money. That's not how it happened. That wasn't my story. I had to put in the work. And, it was plenty of times where, I dropped down, to my knees, and I'm like, man, God, like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Like, why did I just impulsively just jump into something that I knew absolutely nothing about? But it was just, like I said, it was put on my heart to do. And I'm the type of person whereas in whatever I put on my mind or whatever put on my heart, I know with my faith, like Jared said, shout out to my brother Jared. But like he said, faith is the foundation of everything that that my business, me personally, like, that's what I rely on. And I just knew that everything was going to be all right. Now, to the regular person that, starting a business, you got to understand that there's going to be trials and tribulations that's going to come with that. You got to understand that you're not going to just immediately just, make money. Now with the internet now, when I started, Instagram wasn't popping like that. Facebook wasn't popping like that. YouTube was just not getting started. People wasn't making money off of YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of stuff for me was a lot of trial and error. But now, I tell people all the time about planting them seeds. A lot of times you got to plant those seeds, and planting seeds can be as, helping the next person, giving them information. Because I think that, on the poll, I think that the biggest thing, in that poll that stuck out to me is just the resources. A lot of, especially Black and brown people, I think that they just lack the resources, they lack the knowledge, because the money, we the biggest consumers in the world. So the money is not the problem. It's just people not knowing where to go to get it. And with Instagram and with Facebook and social media now, a lot more information is being able to be displayed and given to folks. But, to answer your question, like I said, it's a scary thing. But for me, I'm built for it. You know what I'm saying? I just, I try to first spiritually, mentally, you know what I'm saying, physically be together, because to deal with all the trials and tribulations that come, because what everybody is searching for is that financial freedom. You got to be together all the way around. So, but to answer your question, I think it's very scary, and I think COVID kind of showed that. And I think that, another thing that I'll say on this call is that everybody depends on the internet so much, and I'm not going to comment on it, but you just need to pay attention to who's buying internet platforms, what's going on, what's happening, because the day of tomorrow that the internet shuts down, a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions, and it's going to leave a lot of people, like, what do I do now? So you have to strategically just plan for that. You have to pay attention to what's going on, with the trends of the world. I tell people all the time, cash will always be king, but at the end of the day, you got to understand credit cards, Bitcoin, crypto, all that stuff. This is the way that the world is, transitioning. So I would just tell people to just be aware. I would tell people to reach out to people. And I don't never want to be the smartest person in the room. I never want to be the smartest person at the table. You know what I'm saying? And you just need to, and I said that to say that I done went through and been, paid money to people that said that they can do this and do that, can help me do this and do this. And it didn't happen that way. It was the lessons that was supposed to be learned through that process. Now me having the experience, in what it is that I'm doing, the Lord is putting me in alignment with the right people that helps me to do and get the things that I need accomplished. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I would just tell people just, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever dream that you have, whatever, I seen somebody say that they 9 years into doing what they're doing and they still, almost had to close their doors. Look, I closed all of my restaurants at the time before COVID. I only had like 5 locations. Now we've been blessed since COVID. On the low, we have 9 locations. I haven't announced it or advertised it like that, but it's me on the back end getting my foundation, getting everything straight before I blast it to the world. But I'll just tell people, I mean, you're not going to automatically, it's not going to automatically just happen for you. It's not, business is not going to just automatically take off for you. You just have to put in the work. You know what I'm saying? And you have to surround yourself around people who are like-minded like you. And you can't, and that's another thing, even just touching on the internet, don't get caught up in what the next person is doing, because the next person's struggle is different from yours. You have to, people ask me all the time, you heard about such and such, and I don't. I don't know what's going on in the world, because I got so much stuff going on with my own stuff. So I said all of that to say, you know what I'm saying? Just, if you out there, you're a small business, you're an entrepreneur, just keep on going, man. Stay prayed up.
Yeah, and when you're in the throes of running a small business, it's definitely your world, and as it should be and needs to be, which is why the infrastructures and supports need to be there for our folks. But Lindsey, I want to circle back to you to touch upon something that Greg said, and that's what you put into something is what you get out of it. And unfortunately, and in Greg, I just want to acknowledge, we can see, the energy that you put into your business and why you are, so successful. It's inspiring, to see, and like Jared acknowledged, your mentorship to other folks in the ecosystem of the small businesses and other young people, it is really great, and that is also part of what makes the ecosystem possible. Jared, was that your finger up? Did you?
Yeah, it was
to...
kind of.
Okay.
I didn't want to be the first person to hit the buzzer, but
no, go ahead. We can do that.
But I really, man, as Greg was talking, it had so much that was just coming to my mind, and I would just really like a chance to just piggyback off of what he was saying, because
Sure.
He started tapping into my heart when he started talking about planting seeds and the different types of seeds that you can plant. And one of the things that I was taught is that time, and just going back to our stories, time is the most valuable seed you can plant. Time is the most valuable asset in the world. It's the one thing that you can lose, but you can't get back. So it's a lot of times, and just going back to meeting people where they are, it's about your timing, and it's about the people that's going to give you your time. And something else that I've learned is that about, and in this city in particular, and even across the world, but especially in this city, you often hear people say it's all about who you know. But in my mindset, what I've realized now is not about who you know, it's about who knows you and what for. What reason do they know you for? It's not even always your business, it's the effect that you had on them in the time that they gave you. It's the feeling that you gave them. And I know I go back into the feelings and things, but it really does matter. And one thing that I've learned most of all, you talk about these different resources, but I keep going back to people because I was also taught that it takes a village, especially at Ashé, and the many times that I've gotten a chance to go there and read, and I've gotten to actually experience the village on another level. But your power is actually in your network. And in that sense, I was able, in my experience, to connect with people, not just using my passion and walking in my purpose, but really being able to connect people and get other people to want to work together to help me accomplish my mission. And in that sense, even as an entrepreneur, Greg was talking about, having to use his own money here. And of course you do that. And I had to use my own money here and there to be able to put that book together. But once that process came to be, my thought process became, what is it about right now? Is it about the money right now, or is it about the impact? Is it about what I can gain right now, or how many houses can I reach using this book, which is now like my business card? And so I began to think of my book as a business card. And most entrepreneurs, and what I tell them is, because everyone is not an author, if you just start off with a business card and putting your name and your number, you have something when you go into that room, because God can't send you until you pack your bags and you actually place them at the door. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So you don't wait until you get there to say, oh, I went there and people asked me for a business card, so now I'm about to go back and make a business card. Because by the time you get back to the room, everyone's going to be gone. You won't have time to go and make a business card. So now you've got to wait for this cycle of life. Now you got to wait for things and opportunity to pass you by once again. And one thing that my dad taught me, and I feel like I'm going a little long here, but one thing that my dad taught me about money, actually, he said, Jared, you make a lot more money than you think you do. And I said, no, I know how much money I make. This is how much I have. He said, no, you have money going across you every single day. And just imagine if you grasp just a small percentage of that money and you put it to the side every single day. If you just grasp one person out of the thousands of people and the millions of people you can possibly meet in this world, you won't need a social media, because you'll actually have a following in real life. You'll actually not be able to go to Walmart and not see 20 people that know who you are or that you're familiar with. You won't be able to walk around City Hall and not run into and bump into somebody that you saw at this event, even if you don't remember each other's name. So in my opinion, just adding on to the comments of this conversation, that power is seriously in the network, and it's not even in a position, because you can be in a room and you can have a seat at the table, but have absolutely no power. Your power, in my opinion, is actually in your influence and the effect that you can have on people, and how you can get people to even come together and move on your behalf. And so I don't know, if that was helpful or not, but in my opinion, that's my thought process and how I'm able to, move. So.
No, I think it's definitely helpful. And even on that note, I want to get some input from Lindsey, because not everybody's as charismatic as Jared the Dreamer, right? Everybody, does not have something to offer and sell as compelling as what he's putting out there, right? So how can we still provide a way, and what can, and the reason I'm asking this is because these inequities don't happen on their own, right? It's not because of a lack of talent, it's not because of a lack of knowledge and dedication by these entrepreneurs. Sometimes what you get out is not what you put in, right? And everybody who puts in the same thing doesn't get the same things out, right? And while we can admire the fortitude, that the folks who make it have in overcoming those barriers, it does not mean that those barriers should remain in place. And so, in your experience, Lindsey, how do you, look at the systemic barriers that our Black and Brown businesses are facing, and how we can, do some things to dismantle them?
Yeah, so I think something that you guys haven't said, but it's really, really close to what I'm about to say, is it's really important to work in your business. I think we place a lot of importance on working in our business, but the reality is that we need to be working on our business. And what that really means, it happens in different places. It's the managing of the business, but then it's also the working on yourself professionally, gaining the leadership skills, gaining the know-how in managing your social media, managing accounting and QuickBooks. And if you hate it, partnering with someone who has that as an expertise and that's their super strength and can bring that to the table. But I mean, it's like, I feel, the biggest challenge for me, it's kind of strange. It's like we host all these really great workshops. In the past year, we've, worked with over 3,000 people, which is amazing to say. And every time someone comes into one of my workshops, they say, why didn't I learn about this sooner? And why aren't there more people in this class? And so, and then usually they say, how can I help you? And I think that what we've started to say, what I've started to teach my team to say is to say, we want you to tell the story about Centro. Tell other people that there's an organization that will work with you free of charge to help you grow your business, help you understand your credit issues, help you prepare yourself so that financially you can achieve all the things that you want to achieve. I mean, I think too often we in Black and Brown communities don't talk about finance. We're obsessed with finances, but we don't talk about finances around the dinner table. And it's very taboo to talk about money, business management and things. And it's like, we're like, oh, well, she did this, but they never really share. I think sometimes everybody shares the good things that worked out, but they don't share the bad things that they learned from. I think having those conversations are just as important as like celebrating the wins. And I mean, I think too, it's like tooting your own horn. Like, who's going to be your biggest advocate? You. And it's like, usually my customers will come in and they'll say, well, I don't know what to do with sales. How do I get them to start? And it's kind of right to what Jarrett was saying, is that if you don't ask your customers for a referral, they're not going to come. They're going to assume that you're doing really well, that you don't need any more business. So you have to prepare, say those things. And, I launched the organization with literally a Gmail account so that people can email Lindsey at El Centro and not El Centro at Gmail, right? So look more professional. So I spent $150 on a Gmail account. I spent $150 on a website, a Weebly website. And now there's like Wix, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do that's like free or has a freemium, and then business cards. And once you have those three things, because the first thing people are going to do is they're going to Google you, where are you, what do you do? They're going to send you an email. And then to have those business cards, I mean, people thought that I had a team of 10 working in my office. And I was like, no, I'm actually by myself. I was by myself for the first 2 years.
You
with
are
an intern, like a rotating.
Lindsey. You are like 10 people.
Well, I'm no longer by myself. And I mean, the struggle for me too. Now I have a team of about 5 or 7 of us. Some folks are on contract for certain seasonal periods. And I mean, and we couldn't have done it without the support of Kellogg and and various other organizations around town who like really believed and understood what we were doing and the investment that we were making. But again, it's like, if I had just kept my nose in the work, working with my customers, if I don't pick my head up every once in a while to ask other banks for money and to tell people about what we're doing, then the organization won't grow. So it's like, I can continue to employ myself, but I can't work myself into the ground. And I think, what Cherie was saying, I wanted to be a boss. And then I became the boss. And being the boss of yourself is different from being the boss of 7 people.
That's right.
Because they all need different things and they all have different skill sets. And the goal is to get people to do the things. I say, in our office, it's like, what would Lindsey do? It's like what would Jesus do, right? It's what would Lindsey do? And at first, as I onboarded the first few people, they caught on. But by the time I got to 7, it was like I hired 4 people at the same time, and I was like, why can't you read my mind? I was like, maybe I should sit down and write down the protocol for this stuff, right? Because I can't expect my staff to read my mind or to say, what would Lindsey do? Because they don't know me.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. Cherie, I hear you chiming in, and I want to hear what you're going to say, but I also want to ask you to address in the chat Lloyd Dennis's comment around, you know, plumbers and electricians, you know, those professional service folks that we're not getting training in so much anymore, as well in your response.
Okay, I'll come back to Mr. Dennis's question, but it was something that Lindsey said that just, you know, it sparked me. You know, we do sit around a dinner table. Black and brown people, we sit around the dinner table and we talk about a lot of things. But one of the things that I find that we don't do, and it happened even to me, we do not educate our children on financial anything. Yeah. And that's the biggest mistake that we can make, because children naturally they make believe a lot of things. And if we can teach them the fundamental skills of money, maybe we would see more Black and brown businesses, and maybe more Black and brown businesses would not fail as often or as soon. The other thing about that is, I would like to see government step in a whole lot more than they have to offer assistance to the Black and brown communities. I mean, we're working from a disadvantaged space just by being the color we are. You know, when you talked about the PPP loan, you know, people who are not of color may have received all kind of PPP loans to help their businesses, while the Black and brown communities were not really receiving those things. So one would say, well, why are we not receiving it? We probably weren't prepared to receive it. We don't have the accounting set up. We're still writing our accounting on scratch pads. We're not doing some of the fundamental things that we should be doing in order to get those things. So I'm not going to blame some of our problems on everything that we've always blamed it on, because education is key. And we've come too far as a community, as people, to not even be educated. Yeah. We don't want to, hang on, we don't sometimes want to do the homework, so we get left behind. But when we see our friend next to us moving a little further ahead, then we start wondering, what is that person doing? They're doing the homework that's necessary to move their business forward. Now, that's not true for everybody, but we see it every day, and not just on entrepreneurship, we see it on jobs. If I want to compete for a job, I'm going to prepare myself to sit for that interview. So my friend got the job and I didn't, and I'm upset because I didn't get the job. I didn't do the homework. So we have to also do the homework. We know nothing comes to us easy, and it's definitely not free.
Yeah, I just want to comment on what you were saying. You know, that's so spot on. And I just want to add that some of the homework is dealing with our trauma around finances and economics, as was, you know, pointed out in the chat by some people. Like, you know, we're talking about mental health, you know, and dealing with that in a lot of ways in the city and in the nation. And, you know, one of the places where we don't, you know, acknowledge some of our, you know, mental health issues are around, you know, our finances and the history, you know, that we, you know, face with banks and government and all of those things that kind of add up to all of the reticence and the fears, you know, that we have. And I know you have probably experienced this, like even when you bring, you know, lending opportunities and other kind of financial opportunities to small businesses. Sometimes, you know, there's a, you know, a barrier, like, oh no, I can't, you know, I don't do credit, I don't do loans, you know, that kind of thing. We have that, you know, barrier as well. So I wanted to point it out. And
can I add something to what you're saying? We started with entrepreneurship because I'm obsessed with working with small businesses. But we, last year, the year before last, we piloted a 2-month-long financial literacy program that couples, like, we literally built it ourselves. I worked with 2 other bankers who are Latina bankers. We had, you know, between, you know, 20 years of experience between the 3 of us at least. And we said, what are the issues that our customers have when qualifying for capital? And so we identified all of it, and we said, what do they need to know? And so we built a program based on getting them literally capital ready. And I know we say that, but I mean, it's real. You know, 4 weeks of workshops, plus they get like 4 to 6 hours of one-on-one coaching. And I don't know if you guys know this, but 70% of the population has never put together a personal budget. So the reality is that there are more people out there that have never looked at their personal finances, and it's just a key part to like financial health and wellness. I mean, if you can't manage your own household's budget, how are you going to manage business? And one of my staffers, we're always competing because I say she's pulling my potential customers from my entrepreneurial classes into her credit coaching classes, right, into the financial literacy course. But I mean, the reality is, it's like, why don't we think about our programming that way, right? They're supposed to graduate. Our customers should graduate from, whether it's, they come into a tax site for the first time to prepare their returns, then they hear about, oh, I don't know anything about budgeting or credit. And most people, I think, within our communities, we believe we're cash-based, like culturally, right? We like really believe in cash-based exchanges, I guess, or interactions. And we don't value credit. We are afraid of credit, I think, because we've seen so many people mismanage it and get overwhelmed by it. And so, something that we encourage people to do is to understand that it's a necessary evil to take out a credit card, or to apply for a loan, and if you don't do it, you're going to be credit invisible. And so what you don't want when you're applying for capital is to be credit invisible. And then for the bank to be like, well, I'm really sorry, you have all this money here, but you've never managed, you've never paid down a loan. Like, prove to me that you can pay down a vehicle or pay down a credit card, all these things. And because we're so afraid of it, we just avoid it. And then what happens is that we're treated like people who've mismanaged their credit, as opposed to people who've, as opposed to people who've just been, just absent from the credit system. So all things that we should definitely take into consideration.
Well, I'm going to use that to launch us into the poll question real quick, and to acknowledge, we some long talkers, probably me the most, and we only have like 8 minutes left. I can't believe it. For our conversation, I could talk to y'all all day. Okay, so for support for businesses, how can we support more Black and Brown businesses in New Orleans, in our city? Provide more access to capital, create a bidding process that ensures they can compete for government contracts, provide more resources and technical assistance to small businesses to help with financial and business practices, provide same access to government and banking subsidies as are provided to white-owned businesses, and money talks, support more small businesses and help spread the word. Give us your thoughts. Y'all are a great audience, by the way. I appreciate so much all of the thoughts and encouragement and insights that you're putting into the chat. What we got? What are our results? All right. Providing more technical assistance. Well, it's kind of like a three-way, split. The technical assistance come edging out a little bit, providing the same access to government and banking subsidies and more access to capital, which, are kind of the equivalent. And then money talks, support more small businesses. Yes, we definitely need to do all of those things, in my opinion. And there's a question about the platform where we can view this recording. If someone would mind putting that in the chat. Got shout outs and stuff going on. Oh, I just want to wrap us with this final question around culture, because I just cannot resist that. And, we know that here in New Orleans, our culture is, one that is appreciated by the world, commodified by industry, and that the people who benefit from it, the least of the people who create it, and we've created kind of an ecosystem here where, our culture is just like open access to all. Anybody can come and, take a little piece, name they something second line this, and name they something big chief that, and, they don't have to give any, honor or credit or resources or anything to the people, that they take these cultural products from. How can we make it so that our culture bearers are the one who can monetize their own culture and be able to benefit from it as generously as other people seem to be able to do? What does that look like here? Any wrapping thoughts on that?
Asali, I think we have to start off by supporting each other. I think we don't do that enough. We just had a Give NOLA day last week or so. And, I just kind of went around and talked to certain organizations that I partner with just to kind of get a feel for the support that they were getting. And some received a lot and a lot did not. If we start supporting our own businesses, we can't fail. The culture will not die. I hear people saying, I don't go to the hospital in New Orleans East. I'm going to auction. I'm gonna pass up New Orleans East and go way on Jefferson Highway, right? Or I don't shop in the plaza. I'm going to Lakeside. And what happened? The plaza closed. Now, for various reasons, but the thing is, we have to support each other. If there's a Black and brown business, we have to support it. We go to every corner store where we can buy chicken from the brothers and all these other places, but we have a WeDat that we didn't go and visit. We have to be more mindful. No, we have to be more intentional in how we spend our money, right? If we don't have culture. Culture just goes away.
That's right.
So trying to monetize something like culture, it would not be difficult. We wouldn't be having this conversation, not this particular conversation. And I'm gonna pass it to Greg because I know he has something to say.
I want to say, Ms. Duckworth, I think that's what I was going to say, but you hit it spot on. And that's why I said earlier that we are the consumers. And I say this all the time. It's no reason why no Black-owned business should ever go out of business. But as a Black-owned business, you have to provide a level of service to keep customers coming back. But again, like I say, even with WeDats, I always felt like you have to go above and beyond. And that's just what it is. I mean, that's just because you can go to other restaurants and, you may not get this, you may get poor service, but you're going to keep on going back. But that Black-owned business, we got to make sure that we're playing our part as business owners to make sure that we're providing that service. So I think that you spot on. I mean, when I tell people all the time, they ask me, well, how you came up with the name WeDat on the food truck? I said, it's always been a together thing for me. I love throwing alley hoops. I love assisting people. I love helping people. I mean, especially people in my city, man, especially my people, because the only reason why I am not on 2-lane on that food truck now is because of my people coming support me on that food truck and giving me, the support to be able to expand and grow. So I think, Ms. Duckworth, you hit it spot on.
Yeah, so I'm seeing in the chat, you both hit it spot on, and I want to thank you for that. And thank you both for, being culture bearers in your own right and committing, the energy and the expertise that you do to, keeping this this ecosystem going. We had a couple of questions in the chat. Lindsey, if you would mind dropping your info in the chat, there were a couple of folks who wanted to be able to reach out to connect with El Centro. And then I'm told that there was a question about a mentor, but I'm not seeing it. Someone is looking for a mentor of someone on this panel. Are y'all ready to mentor some folks out there? Let's see. Greg, do you mentor people? That's where
I got so many people that I mentor. I mean, I can give you my information, my email address. Any questions that you have is not a problem. I mean, that's what it's all about. So I can drop my email address in the chat as well. Hold on.
And Asali, I want to add to that because I would be remiss if I did not say to anyone that's in the audience or who looks at this later, please reach out to the Urban League's Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center. They are top notch. Miss Classy Duncan is one of my dearest coworkers, and I'm only sorry she wasn't on this call, because I know she has some powerful information to add. Reach out to us. We really have some career advisors and I'm calling them career advisors because I'm workforce, y'all, but we have some business advisors that are ready to work with you right now. We really are. And Classy is committed to this work, and she's very passionate about it. So please reach out to the Urban League.
Yes, please do. They're a great partner. Lindsey, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of you, I was going to say that a lot of you had asked questions about resources that exist and where can I find like a startup launch, I don't know, what do you ask for something like that, like a manual on how to start a business. So the SBA, SBA.gov is actually a great site. It's a government site where you can click, I'm interested in starting a business. You can look up actual resources. They have a ton of templates in Word, in Excel that you can use to whether it's building out a business plan or just a lean canvas model. You can access all that information there. There's also a great resource in NOLA BA. NOLA BA on the website, they have a tab for starting new businesses, for resources, and they literally list all of the CDFIs in the area. They list all of the technical assistance providers, so all of the organizations that are doing the work in the community. There's an ecosystem of us. I do want to say that it's important that you be at the right place. So we want you to be at the right entrepreneurial serving organization who's going to give you the resources and tools that you need. And I say the right place just because some of them specialize, for example, in like bioinnovation. Others specialize in, social impact ventures. So every organization has its forte and has its like ideal customer, if that makes any sense. And then their resources will be more robust based on whether or not, you partnered yourself well or paired well with them. Yeah. But I mean, knowledge is power. And the first thing is to ask those questions and to do some digging. I mean, I learned everything from Theo Google, or Uncle Google, as we like to call him in my class. For some reason, my staff, they think that I have the answer to everything. And I just tell them, nope, you've got to ask Uncle Google for that answer. You can really find like a lot of the information is at the tip of your fingers. So don't be afraid to do that and to slow down. Like, your time is just as valuable, as I said, when you're working in the business as when you're working on the business. Just think of that time that you're spending working on your business as an investment in the future of like growth, as opposed to like making a sale now. You're thinking longevity, long-term, when you're working on your business as opposed to just in your business.
Absolutely. Well, y'all are crushing it with the inspiration for our aspiring folks. And with that being said, I would wonder and hope that Jared would give us the pleasure of his inspirational insight to close us out.
I'm honored. I was honestly just sitting there soaking in a lot of that for myself. But the one thing that comes to my heart as I sit here and I listen and I think about what we're talking about, and just the fact that the door has been open for this type of inspiration now, is that your dream can't come true without you. And of course, yeah, there are people who can carry your vision. There are people who can make sure that what you wanted is taken care of. But you really don't have to die to live. And in essence, you seriously should be taking care of yourself, your mentality, your internal and your external self, and really preparing yourself each day for what the day will bring. I understand that the world doesn't stop spinning just because you have a vision or just because you have a plan. And we all understand that life is going to throw a lot of things at us. But what I would say to people is that you have greatness within you. And not only that, but the greatness within you is as limitless as the universe around you. And man, I tell you, I wouldn't even just say that the sky is the limit. I'm definitely shooting for the moon. And I can guarantee you that even if you miss the moon, that you'll be amongst the stars. So that's what I would definitely close out with.
Well, thank you so much for that, Jared. And we certainly have a panel of stars here who are doing much to illuminate pathways for our small businesses in New Orleans, our culture bearers, our industry and ecosystem that is looking to create and repair and build in terms of equity and closing the racial wealth gap here in New Orleans. Thank you so much to the wonderful audience for making this a valuable and thoughtful experience. You know, I hope y'all do this all the time whenever y'all in these conversations. Send those, you know, those great thoughts and insights y'all have, you know, really helped to make this special. We plan to take some of the themes that we heard tonight and further explore these issues throughout the year as part of these wonderful I Am New Orleans conversations that the Kellogg Foundation is partnering with the community to create. So I hope that you continue to join us, invite people to join us, and we really are spurring some action with this, and we want to hear your stories. So add to the conversation using the I Am New Orleans hashtag, and please visit the website at IamNewOrleansVoices.com and let us continue to keep this conversation and keep this energy going, and you know, let's change some things, New Orleans, together.
I wanted to give a quick shout out to Brother Norman and Miss Valerie over there at the New Orleans Business Alliance.
Oh,
and
yes.
And the Spirits Group for helping orchestrate this and put this on. It was an amazing event, and everybody on the panel did an amazing job. It was very insightful. So just wanted to do that. Wanted to say that.
Thank you so much, Greg. We appreciate you. And
Thank you, Greg.
we concur with the greatness of NOLA VA and the Spirits Group in helping us to, you know, really craft these conversations and present them in a way that is truly reflective of what community wants to hear and what we want to say. So thank you all.
And just to add to that, again, thank you, Norman. Thank you, Milena. But also thank you to the Kellogg Foundation for putting this on, making this possible. Because without funding, these events just would not exist for us. So they gave us a platform to have a voice. So thank you to the Kellogg Foundation for doing that as well.
Ashé to that.
Yes.
And with that, please, everyone, have an abundant and joyful evening until the next time.
Yay.